Well, good morning. It looks like most of our attendees have loaded at this point. I'm Ginger Powell, and I'm the Deputy Director with the Northwest Tennessee Workforce Board, and you are joining us for our fourth part of our 2021 Virtually Speaking series. Today, we're going to be talking about utilizing labor market information to build a hiring strategy. And joining us for the panel today is Jennifer Bain, our very own Executive Director with the Northwest Tennessee Workforce Board, and she's going to bring forth a lot of information about our economic modeling system that we use to pull labor market information. Additionally, we have Lindsey Frilling. She is the CEO of the Obion County Joint Economic Development Corporation and an avid user of our labor market information for not only her benefit working with industry recruitment, but also with her employers who are chamber members. So she's going to kind of give us a perspective, an employer perspective today during our webinar. So I wanted to mention as well, this is the fourth part of our four-part series. If you've missed previous Virtually Speaking webinars, you're welcome to go back and look at those and view them. They're all recorded, and we put them on our website at nwtnjobs.org. And we will have another four-part series in 2022 in the coming year. You can find out about those webinars that are coming up on our Facebook page, and that's the American Job Centers of Northwest Tennessee. And we'll also send out email blasts, and our chamber partners also pass those along. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Bain, our Executive Director for the Northwest Tennessee Workforce Board, to share some labor market information with you.
Thanks, Ginger. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share our handout for today. And you will get a copy of this first report that I'm going to go through. So as Ginger mentioned, we use Economic Modeling Systems Incorporated, or EMSI. This is a paid subscription service that I think we've probably had going on 10 years now, and we absolutely love it. This data is customizable, so we can select specific counties. We can base it off a drive time or a mile radius to get a certain area. But what I'm going to go through today is actually based on our 9 counties in Northwest Tennessee. The data is updated quarterly, so it's always going to be fairly current information. And most of our reports, we can actually set specific timeframes that we want to look at going forward or in the past as well. So this report today, the first one, this economy overview, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly just to give you a really good idea of the types of data that is available in EMSI. There's a ton of it, so it would be much longer than a 1-hour webinar to go through all of it, but this will give you a really good idea of what's there. And everything that I talk about in this report, we can usually drill down even further than what you're going to see in here. First section here, and please somebody tell me if this is not zoomed in enough, but hopefully you can see this okay. But the first here is our overview of our population, our number of jobs. That's this middle number here, the average average earnings per job, which is our industry earnings divided by the industry employment for that year. We've got some insights here that you can see. I've highlighted a few of them up here as the top as well. And we're going to talk about some of these as we go through the report. And down here at the bottom, I wanted to point out that we can do a comparison. So I've got Northwest Tennessee highlighted, and if you'll notice, it's actually the same as the region because Northwest Tennessee, we normally include as a comparison. But if we were looking at, say, Obion County, just for Lindsey, this top line would actually show figures for just Obion County, and you could compare to some other areas, our 9 counties, West Tennessee as a whole, the state, the nation, and we can kind of customize that as well and add in other comparisons. So if Lindsey wanted to know how Obion County compared to Weakley County, we could adjust that as well. We've got some labor force data. This one is from December 2020. So this was kind of a snapshot of at the end of 2020, but you'll see some additional data, and we're going to go through some more of this. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that, but we do have that in this report. Our educational attainment below that, you can see how our area, our 9 counties, compares as far as bachelor's degree and associate's degrees to the nation. You can see the breakdown of our population by highest level of education down here at the bottom. So you can see 41.7%, their highest level is a high school diploma. We've got about almost 27,000 who have less than a high school diploma. So for a total of 76.7% in our area that have less than a college degree or credential. We've got some unemployment demographic information in this report. This is from September 2021. You can see that breakdown by age and kind of where the largest fall. We're going to spend a little bit more time on some of this on the next section as well. So I just want to point that out. There's also some breakdowns for unemployment by gender, race, and ethnicity, if you're interested in that. We've got historic population data, so you can see where our population was in 2020. It had declined by 1.5% since 2015. We're showing that we're expected to decline again by 2020-25 by 0.6%. And we also have the ability to run reports that will show a breakdown of this by age. So even though our overall population for our 9 counties is expected to decrease by 0.6%, if you were to look at the age breakdown, you would see that in our key working age populations between 15 and 64, we're actually looking at about a 4% decline, whereas our 65 plus population is actually expected to grow by 7%. So we can provide that data as well. Similar information for our job trends. You can see how we've declined over the last several years. We fell short of the national growth by a little bit, and we can look forward and see what it's supposed to look like over the next 5 years as well. Similar data again for labor force participation rates. You saw the December 2020 caption earlier in the report. This gives you the history of kind of where we were. So you can see we've kind of fallen since 2016. And as of September 2021, we were showing at 54.1% for our 9 counties. Similar data again for unemployment rate trends. You can see 2016, we were at 6.24%. We went up in 2020 for an overall 7.16%. But since then, we've been falling and we're down to 3.68% in September. The Tennessee Department of Labor releases those amounts monthly, and we were at 3.6% again in October. So we stayed pretty steady there. We've got some population demographics in here. You can see the number of millennials in our 9 counties as compared to the national average for an area our size. So we're actually below the national average when it comes to the number of millennials ages 25 to 39 in our area. And we're a little bit above average when it comes to the individuals who are going to be retiring soon. So we've got a high risk for retirement in our area. And you can see that we really don't have enough millennials to replace those that are going to be retiring in our area. And nationally, since the pandemic started, there's been a surge in retirement. So overall, they had 3.6 million people retiring during the pandemic, which was actually about 2 million more than what was originally expected. We also have a breakdown of our veteran population. We are actually above the national average for veterans in our area. And if you're not familiar with the American Job Centers, we do offer veteran services. So that is a service we provide to help connect veterans to jobs and to help connect employers to those veterans. We've got some commuting data in here. You can see for our 9 counties, there's a little, it might be a little hard to see in the screen, but there's a little legend there to show the counties that are losing workers to other counties versus bringing them in. So in our 9 counties, other than Dyer County, all of our counties are losing workers to other counties. And again, we can customize this. So if you were in Obion County, we could look at specifically that and where yours are going. This is similar. This is not commuting data, though. This is actually migration data, so population changes. So if Dyer County is losing population, this will show you where that's going. So there's a long list to show where those migrations are going. And that is based on IRS tax data, so it is a little bit dated from that aspect. And then we've got some overall information on our industries, the largest industries in our area. You can see the top 3 there, and we also show a comparison to the national average. So you can see the ones highlighted there, we're actually showing above the national average in those industries. We can show the top growing industries, the industry location quotient, which is similar where it shows our comparison to the national average. So if we are above a 1, we are above the national average. So the ones highlighted there, you can see that we're showing above the national average where we've got a higher concentration in our area for those industries. GRP for industries on there, top industry earnings. This is the earnings per worker, that data that I mentioned at the beginning where it's taking the industry earnings divided by the number of jobs in the industry. And then the top industry GRP, top industry let's go backwards. And then the business characteristics there. So you can see what companies are hiring in our area. It'll show you the number of job postings that they've posted, the top 10 there. And they search through online profiles to see where individuals are working. So you can see the top information there. Business size, you can see the breakdown of the size of businesses in the area. So if you add these up, we've got 96.5% of businesses in our 9 counties actually have less than 50 employees. And again, this can all be run based on a specific county or specific set of counties. And then similar to the industry data we just showed, we've got similar data for our occupations. So we can see where our our largest occupations are and how they compare to the national average. So the ones I've got highlighted, we're actually showing that we have a higher number in our area compared to the national average. And we can actually pull different reports that are not really reflected in this report, but it's on skills transferability. So if you are really struggling to find production workers, for example, we can actually run a report that will pull other occupations that might have similar skills to a production worker. So even if you're struggling to find somebody with that specific type of work experience, we could give you an idea of some jobs that would have similar skills that might still be a good source of workers for you. Our top growing occupations are in here as well. The location quotient, those highlighted, you can see are above that level 1. So we're above the national average and concentration for those occupations in our 9 counties. This is the top earnings by occupation based on the median hourly earnings per occupation. And this will be across all industries. And the top posted occupations, and they do this based on the unique average monthly postings. So not just the postings that might be in multiple places, but the actual unique postings per job. We also have some underemployment data. This compares the education level of the population to the education level required of the job. So you can see we're high in some areas and lagging in some areas, particularly in our bachelor's degree area. The number of residents that we have that level of education is that gray line there is actually below the level of jobs requiring that education. And then our educational pipeline, this is 2020 data. So it's usually a little bit behind because they use the data that the training providers have to report on. So it will probably be a little bit longer before we'll have 2021 data. But you can see the number of graduates in 2020 by university, community college, and TCAT. And we can also drill down into this data to show you training program specific data to see the number of graduates coming out of each of those individual training providers programs. And we can do it so if you wanted to know welding per se, we can show you the number of graduates in welding programs across providers, or we could look at a specific provider for you. And then this pulls comparison of skills that are the top hard skills in our area and how we compare to the national average as well. So that is it on the economy overview report. It's a lot, but that hopefully will give you a good idea of all the vast amount of information that is available in MZ. And I should say that this report takes all of about 5 minutes to run. So it's super fast, super easy to get to you in a hurry if you need it. And like I said, we can customize it to the counties that you need. I have a couple other reports in MZ that I want to mention. This one is the manufacturing staffing patterns report. We can pull this for any specific industry. It can be, this one is in particular for manufacturing as a whole, so not a specific type of manufacturing, but we can pull it for a specific manufacturing field. So if we wanted to look at, let's say, food manufacturing, we could do that. Healthcare, any industry can have this report pulled. The nice thing about this one and pulling it for like the full manufacturing industry is it gives you the opportunity to see wage data and employment data across the industry, not specifically, like I mentioned, food manufacturing industry, but you can see as a whole what the manufacturing industry looks like when it comes to staffing patterns. So you can see it breaks it down by occupation. It gives the SOC, the code there for that occupation. The number employed in 2021, we can adjust these dates, what it looks like, or the expected amount in 2026 is, and it gives you the amounts there. And we usually pull this report based on the percentage of jobs in the industry. So you can see it's kind of sorted with the largest number at top, and it will decrease as you go. It'll show the median hourly earnings, the education level that's typically required for somebody to enter into that position, the work experience that's typically required by to enter into that occupation, and then the amount of on-the-job training that's usually needed for those occupations. So that's a really good report. And again, we can run that one pretty quickly. And it's also customizable by the counties. This is a similar report, but it is more detailed to specific occupations. So when we pull that report that I just showed you that shows the top occupations in an industry, we can then take those occupations and run this report to show you a wide range of wage data. So over on the right here, you'll see it starts with the average hourly earnings. Well, there is a cost of living adjusted average hourly earnings. So because we have a lower cost of living in our area than much of the rest of the country, you can see that this average hourly earnings of $13.08 actually is more like $14.41 because of the cost of living. And then we can show you the range of wages. So it'll go the bottom 10% are earning $9.49 per hour. You can see the 25th percentile, median hourly earnings, 75 percentile, 90 percentile. So if you're worried that your wages may not be in line with what the other employers in the area are doing or what the demand is, we can run this for you and you can get a full range to compare to. The other thing I wanted to point out, we have the 2020 resident workers and 2020 net commuters. So that will show you the number of people who both live and work in the area, the resident workers, and then the net commuters are the ones that we're losing outside of our 9 counties. So they are actually leaving our 9 counties and commuting somewhere else to go to work. But I think we would all agree that most people would prefer to stay closer to home if they can. So that's a possible source of some employees for you. And this one, we've got it sorted by the SOC, the code for the occupations, and we've added a line, we do this part to show kind of an average and total overall by occupation type. So we've got the transportation and logistics occupations grouped together. There's a lot of this next section, that's the production. We've got maintenance group, we could do the office support, that will pull in as well. Engineering, your IT folks and your management occupations are all in there. And we can also pull, this is actually a separate report that I just showed as a screenshot down here at the bottom, an age breakdown by occupation. So this is an example for production workers in our 9 counties. You can see that the age, the majority of them, where they fall in there. And you can see that we've got a pretty large percentage, over 19%, who are between the ages of 55 and 64. So they're going to be getting pretty close to retiring soon. So that's it for the MZ reports. The next section that I'm going to go through, this is data that's available on the Tennessee Department of Labor's website. So this is data that you all can access. This is the link right here that would take you to their live website. They do update this information pretty often. Most of the time it's about a month behind. So I think September was the latest month when I looked at this last week. So October will probably be available pretty soon, but most of this is updated monthly. Some of it's quarterly. So we mentioned labor force participation rate when I went through the MZ report. If you look at the state's website, they will actually give you this information that defines who that really is and what your labor force participation actually looks like. So our labor force is defined as the number of individuals who are age 16 and older who are non-institutionalized. So they're not incarcerated, they're not in a treatment facility, they are available for work, and they have to actually be working or actively looking for work to be counted in our labor force population. And then, so you can kind of follow this chart here and see how it works. So once you have that number of 16 plus who are civilian, non-institutionalized, then we start looking at who's actually working and who's not working. So you can see up here, if you follow the working line, they're employed for us. And this was the October numbers that just came out last week. We had over 100,576 individuals specifically that were employed out of our labor force of about 104,000. Those not working, which does not necessarily mean they're drawing unemployment, but they are unemployed. They could be absent from a job. They could be laid off, waiting to go back to work. They've been actively working, looking for work in the last 4 weeks. They're available for work. Those are considered the unemployed. That was 3,704 individuals for our 9 counties in October, which gave us an unemployment rate of about 3.6%. So there's not a whole huge number out of our labor force that are actually unemployed. So the other bulk of the number comes to this age 16 plus non-institutionalized civilians that are either they're not working, they're not looking for work, they fall on this none of these above. They are not in the labor force population. So we're going to spend a little time looking at who that consists of in our area. The state's website also allows you to look at your labor force participation rate over time. So the number of individuals who are 16 plus, not institutionalized, who are looking for work or working, that number divided by the total population of that 16 plus gives you your labor force participation rate. So this example is for Dyer County. You can see their rate down here in the red. So as of October, they were at 49.8%. I think that's actually as of September, if I remember correctly, when I ran this. And you can see the comparison to the state up there and the United States. So you can see in this case, Dyer County and really all of our counties were falling below the state and the nation. You can also see how your county compares to neighboring counties. So again, I pulled Dyer County for this example, and you can see how they'll pull the neighboring counties. This is Tennessee data, so it won't show our neighboring counties from other states, but it will show you how you compare to the neighboring Tennessee counties next to your county. So for those individuals that are in the labor force, it will allow you to see the demographic data by gender, disability status, and education levels. They do offer a breakdown of specifically ages 18 to 64. So even though the labor force participation is actually looking at individuals 16 and up, we know most 16-year-olds are still in school, so they're not really available for full-time work. So the state's website actually does show this demographic data specifically for 18 to 64-year-olds, which is helpful. They also show English proficiency. That is actually for ages 5 and up for the county that you select, and they'll show the percentage of those in poverty for the ages 16 and up. So this kind of gives you an example of what the education information will look like, and this is specifically again for Dyer County. It'll show you their percentage by the highest level of education for their population, for their labor force. And similarly, you can see industry data. This is the one that's updated quarterly. It will show you the number of the number employed by industry, the job growth, and then you can actually see how that compares to your neighboring counties as well. Similar to the labor force demographic data that's available, we can look at the non-labor force. So those individuals who are 16 and older, they're not institutionalized, but for whatever reason, they're not working and they're not looking for work. This gives you a breakdown of who those individuals are. So the same demographic data that we mentioned on the previous slide on the labor force is available for the non-labor force. And a couple of things that I wanted to point out, if you look at this, this again was specifically for Dyer County, but this is typical in a lot of counties. A very large portion of the individuals not in the labor force have a disability, 49.6%. So that's a large number of those. And then you can see by education level over here on the side, 69.6% are individuals who have a highest level of a high school diploma. So it's a much smaller number for those with a college credential. And then you can see that your share of the population age 18 to 64 that are both in and out of the labor force there as well. This slide here shows a tool you can use. So if you were, again, I used Dyer County as an example, and it will show you the number of individuals 18 to 64. So even though your labor force is actually defined by 16 plus. It's going to give you the breakdown of 18 to 64. It'll show you the number specifically for Dyer County in the labor force, the number not in the labor force, and it gives you the rate. And if you want to know, well, if I want to increase my rate by 1%, it will show you how many individuals you need to add to get to that increased labor force rate for 16 plus and for 18 to 64. I should mention that as well. And you can pick which one you want and it'll recalculate for you. There is also unemployment insurance claims data or UI data available. So you can select the week, and this is fairly current. So this is by week ending, and they've got November information in there already. You can see the number of claims by industry, like I said, the week and the claim type. So whether it was a new claim or whether it is somebody who's continuing to draw unemployment. You can see the history of claims by week. So you can see whether they're going down or whether they're going up. That same demographic data that we mentioned, race, gender, ethnicity, age, education level, you can see claims by that, and you can compare claims to job openings. So if you're in the manufacturing industry and you are concerned that there's just tons of people on unemployment in manufacturing and that's why they're not coming to work, you can actually pull that up and see how the job openings compare to the UI claim. So this green line up here, and again, this was for Dyer County, shows the job openings by industry, and then you can see the UI claims by industry as well. And that is our contact information. If you are in need of some labor market information, we're the folks that will be glad to help you. And we will be glad to send you reports and walk you through some of the data that we went through today. And I did want to mention too, the unemployment website on the Department of Labor's website. It's tennessee.gov/workforce. You can see some resources for assistance with unemployment there if you're concerned that you have folks who are drawing unemployment and not coming back to work. If you've asked them to come back to work or not showing up for job interviews, there is a method in place for you to report suspected fraud on their website. When you go to the tennessee.gov/workforce, it will say unemployment at the top, and you should see the UI fraud abuse reporting there as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ginger.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was a lot of information. I hope you all found it very useful. One thing I wanted to mention I failed to early on is if you have questions as we're going through the information, there is a chat box at the bottom of your screen where you can enter your questions. At the end of our webinar, we will go back through those questions and answer them for the benefit of the group. Also, I'm going to drop in the chat box the contact information for our 2 business services reps that Jennifer just mentioned. Lana Wood, she covers our Dyer, Lake, and Crockett counties, and Malia Evans also covers Benton, Carroll, Henry, Gibson, and Weakley County. I will put their email addresses in the chat box as well. We have so many employers who request the information regarding wage data. Jennifer went through that where you could see broken down by occupation or by industry wage data, which I know is very beneficial right now during this labor shortage when we're trying our best to recruit for our employers. So if you want to see, make sure you're falling competitive with your wages, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to provide you that wage data. So don't forget the chat box. There's going to be some helpful information there, and please put your questions there. And at this time, we're going to turn it over to Lindsey Frilling. Again, she is the CEO of the Obion County Joint Economic Development Corporation, and she's just going to give us a little bit of an employer perspective and how they use this information. So, Lindsey?
Thank you all for having me here today. I know that if there's probably a target on the wall in your office and you throw darts at it, it's probably me, because I probably wear you out more than anybody. But I've been with my organization for about 12 years, and in November of 2010, I took over the economic development side of things, which meant working with existing industry, recruiting industry, so on and so forth. Well, some of you may remember in February of 2011, Goodyear announced they were closing, and obviously they were one of the major employers in the whole region. So kind of all I've known is to work in crisis mode to figure out what to do. And our workforce partners, Jennifer's predecessor, Margaret Prater, were a godsend to help us figure out what we were going to do and how to make these people that were dislocated workers get back into the workforce and to just come back together as a community. So fast forward 10 years now from that, we have recruited over 2,000 new jobs and almost $200 million in new investment in Obion County. And so here we are today in a situation that many of you can relate to. We have a lot of jobs that are unfilled. And so some of the information that I have over the years worked with Jennifer and her team to put together is more for Obion County, but obviously it's a regional workforce report. So I'm going to share this with you now and go through it just so you can see that for those of you that may not be in Obion County, you can go back to either Lana or Malia, or if you work directly with your chamber economic development person, hopefully they can get you these reports and something similar, because there's pieces that can be used by everybody in here. So this is our regional workforce for Obion County consists of the 8 counties that you see listed here, because obviously we are on the Kentucky border. And going back to my comment about Goodyear, when they closed, there were about 2,000 employees directly employed by Goodyear. About 900 or so of those were Obion County residents, almost 400 were Gibson County residents, and the next 3 counties were Fulton, Hickman, and Graves counties in Kentucky that had been directly employed there. So we know firsthand how many employees are directly impacted by the jobs that are here in Obion County. Obviously, back to some of the things Jennifer talked about, the regional population, 204,000. Our population in Obion County is about 30,000. Our regional labor force is 86, almost 87,000, and our local labor force is about 12,000. And that unemployment rate number, as Jennifer said, this data is updated quarterly. So I'll come back and ask them if they can help me replug in all these numbers each quarter to make sure we have the most current data that we're sharing with our existing employers and any potential new employers. But one of my favorite pieces of information here for especially my existing employers is the commuting patterns. And this is obviously circled around Obion County, but we've got, 21,000 people coming into the region for work, but we have over 35,000 leaving for work. But if you drill down further, people making less than $15,000 a year, we have 5,500 coming in, but 8,500 going out. So if anything you hear today is there are workers leaving the area for jobs of $15,000 a year or less, and we can recapture those people. As Jennifer said, people obviously want to work closer to where they live. And the rest of this report goes into the education piece of things with our regional education numbers and things that Jennifer has already kind of touched on today, but it's a little more specific and drilled down for somebody that might be focusing particularly on Obion County. UTM, Dyersburg State, TCAT, and the beauty school are our most attended institutions around the area. And then it breaks down post-secondary completions, and it'll go into these different occupations. And as Jennifer said, these things can be very specific. And then it looks at the potential job growth, your hourly earnings, and the list goes on and on here with the different types of industry and the wage rates. Your regional industries, this report mirrors the one Jennifer showed you all for the whole region pretty closely. Government, manufacturing, retail, trade, healthcare are some of our larger areas with the jobs, but the growing, again, manufacturing, transportation, food service. For those of you that may not know, Tyson is our largest employer in Obion County, and Williams Sausage is our second largest employer. So food processing is major in our area. Unemployment numbers, again, this is helpful to know, where the highest number of unemployed people may be and in what area and occupation. And it's tells you the number and the percentage of the national and the regional unemployment there, which is helpful as well. And again, manufacturing obviously is way up there on our list all the time. This is important to the available employed workforce, so that you're talking about those growing occupations, so that you'll know what your earnings are, if you're paying competitively, which is a lot of the questions that I get, well, how much does a welder make in Obion County? And I'll say, well, I can give you that number, but it's not really helpful because we have so many people coming into Obion County and leaving Obion County for those jobs. So generally we run a report for a 45-minute drive time from Union City, which is the county seat in Obion County, because people will typically in our area, because 1 mile, 1 minute, it's about the same. So people will drive anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes for a job. And the compatibility index, this last page of this report, is most helpful because, as I said, going back to Goodyear and what those skill sets were at Goodyear, obviously we wanted to find a way to put our dislocated workers back to work. So this compatibility index shows, say, for example, the truck drivers and what are the comparable occupations? Where could you go look to find people that that you might want to recruit for truck driving jobs? And it shows you that list. And then below that, same thing with maintenance, go and looking for existing maintenance workers, aircraft workers, door repairers, vehicle service technicians, auto body. Just helps to focus in on when you're doing a search for employees and you're looking for those skill sets, again, welders. So those are some of our top occupations in the area, the truck driving, the maintenance, and welding. So this is just very brief overview of some of the specific data that we use. But again, generally, this is your broad overview workforce information. But when my existing industry contact me, 9 times out of 10, they want to know how much an average welder or fill in the blank, whatever it may be, is making. And we just get with Lana and Jennifer and their team and try to, if at best, what the SOC code is, that's the best way to narrow it down, because everybody's jobs are kind of different. But they're very helpful. They're helpful to me, and sharing those with my employers to make sure that they are being most competitive in being able to keep up with their wage rates for their employees. So that's what I have. Jennifer, I will turn it back over to you and Ginger to finish up and answer questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Lindsey. We appreciate your perspective. Again, we'll check the chat box real quick to see if you have any questions. I want to just give a reminder that we will send the economic overview that Jennifer went over earlier in the webinar out to all of our attendees today, so you can kind of peruse that and pick it apart and see what information is useful for you. And if you would like some labor market specific data for your industry or a specific occupation that includes wage data, I did put the contact information in the chat box for Lana and Malia, which are our business services representatives for the Workforce Board. They pull those reports regularly. Feel free to reach out with any needs that you have, and we'll be glad to provide those reports to you. So let me check the chat again real quick to see if we have any questions.
Ginger, while you check the chat, I just wanted to mention, I was glad Lindsey pointed out her report that the MZ data that we went over first, when we can customize it by county, that is not specific to Tennessee. So if you do have counties that neighbor in other states, we can pull that through the MZ data. It was just the labor force participation data from the Department of Labor that I went over that was specific to Tennessee.
Thank you. We appreciate your time today, and we hope this was beneficial to you. And just a reminder also that our data goes to county level. So anything you need, drill down to county level. We can't do zip code or a specific city within a county. It's all county-wide data, but we're happy to provide it for you. A lot of times, as mentioned earlier, it's you want a 30-minute drive time to your county, or a 45-minute drive time, whatever you consider a reasonable commute for your positions, and we'll be happy to do that. So we can do it by county, specific counties, to make a region, or by drive time or miles to your county, various ways. But we'd be happy to discuss all those options with you if you would like it. And I don't know that we said this, but all this information is always free. So if you want this information, it's free to you. Just request it. That's one of the services that we provide the Workforce Board, is this labor market information. So it will always be free, and we try to be very timely in responding to your request. Also, if you're applying for grant funding or anything like that, sometimes this information is beneficial to you as well. So whatever reason you need it, we're happy to provide it. Again, thank you for your time today, and you can catch the recorded version of this on our nwtnjobs.org website. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in 2022 with our webinars, virtually speaking. Thank you.